Welcome back to Cycling Unboxed. I am here at Pedal Heaven in Fleet, looking at the brand new Specialized Crux 5. And of course, thanks to Pedal Heaven for letting me have a look. So if you're interested in buying the bike, definitely go check them out. I have the website linked in the description down below. First of all though, let's get into some of the changes that they have done, and then we're going to look around the tube and frame shapes and just see what's different and new about the bike. So let me bring you in close, let's get into it. Now, starting off with the first claim from Specialized, they reckon this bike is about 15.2 watts faster than the previous Crux 4. Now, usually sometimes these numbers are quite big, but honestly, with this bike, I think those numbers are realistic with hiding the cables and, well, dramatically changing the frame shape here. This bike definitely looks more like an aero bike. With the change in the frame shape, this is the specs on the S-Works model because that's the one they generally release, but because they've made the tube shapes deeper and chunkier, they only have about a 60 gram weight penalty over the previous version of bike. So to make the bike this much more aero with about 60-70 gram weight penalty, that's quite impressive in my eyes. They reckon the frame's about 790 grams in the S-Works model, and yeah, now obviously for the non-S-Works models, like the ones that we've got here, probably add about 1 to 200 grams on there generally, but it's still a very, very light bike. So some geometry changes as well. First thing they've done is they've actually lengthened the top tube and wheelbase a little bit, this to give it a more stable kind of handling, but they have also then shortened the stems on top of that, so I think it's roughly about a centimetre longer, and then they've got a centimetre shorter on the stems to account for that. So the bike doesn't feel too long still. Next up, they have steepened the seat tube by half a degree. This is just to give it a more modern road bike feel, also get you a little bit more over the bottom bracket. It just helps you hold a more aerodynamic position. So the steeper you go on the seat tube there, the more like a time trial bike it becomes. And yeah, it's just going to help you hold a more aero position for longer. Finally, the bottom bracket is lower. Now, I'm not sure what this does for clearance when you're pedaling and stuff, but you might want to account with a shorter crank maybe, but it should give the bike a lower center of mass, more stable ride feel as well, more racy and controllable when you're going around corners. I will be talking about tire clearance when I go over the tube shapes, but the last thing is that this bike is now one by only, so no bracket here, but you can go up to a 52 tooth chain ring in the front, so pretty damn big, which is decent. But yeah, obviously going one by is going to add to the aerodynamics there, and for a gravel bike, most people run one by anyway. Okay, so let's talk about the frame shape of this thing. And well, they say they've kind of based it on the SL8, but in my eyes, it's definitely based on the Tarmac SL7, which personally I have one, and it is by far one of my favorite bikes in the world. And to me, this is just like kind of like a slightly chunkier version of that. So I think this is a really, really beautiful frame shape. I know a lot of you are going to love the old one for its simplicity and its round tubes. This one suits me more personally, but I'm not going to get into that discussion today. Let's look at the tube shapes in a bit more detail. This is the comp model here, so with SRAM rival, and I do actually like the grip texture on these hoods, but not here to talk about the grip set, here to talk about the bike. And you can see it does come with a normal round bar, somewhat semi-integrated. So you can see there is some exposed cable there, but obviously very clean, very tidy, and pretty damn well hidden away underneath. But if you want to go to a one-piece bar and stem, easy enough upgrade to do on this thing. Next change is definitely the seat post. They've gone from a round seat post to the more aerodynamic D-shaped seat post, fairly deep, pretty narrow at the front, still narrower than 1 finger wide there, as you can see, but it does look slightly thicker than what some bikes are coming out with nowadays, but it is a gravel bike, so it needs to be stronger and more sturdy. Next up in the top tube here, you can see it does go from the normal headset bearing width quite wide down into this really skinny rear triangle here. This is very nice. It just looks sleek on top, really. Of course, coming with the top mount bolts in case you want to put like a bento box on there, some extra storage that sits nice and aerodynamically behind the headset here. And whilst I'm on the topic of bolts, I mean, first of all, it's a small detail, but I like the way Specialized come with their own branded bolts here. It just makes the bike look cleaner and more integrated. I don't know why, I just like it. Next up, on the bigger models here, it does come with 2 bolting options, higher or lower. Personally, I normally go lower, but this probably won't be an option on the smaller frame sizes, just the 56, 58, for example. And then thankfully, it does come with some undercarriage storage here, so you do have 2 bolts in the section here, just in case you want to put extra storage or a bottle cage down there as well for extra hydration. The head tube is pretty damn narrow, about as narrow as you would expect for a gravel bike, or could expect for a gravel bike. If I put two fingers up there, yeah, it is just about wider than two fingers. It's a pretty damn narrow head tube, let's just say that, which is the first thing hitting the wind and needs to be the most aerodynamic thing on the bike. And of course, with it now being an aero gravel bike, they've made the head tube a lot deeper. Going down into the fork here, you can definitely tell they've gone away from the old rounded tubes. This is much more bladed. You can see it's very skinny from the front. It's got quite a sharp front nose. And actually, I do really like this kind of like haunch on the shoulder here. It makes it look quite like a muscly bike. Just makes it look a bit more aggressive to me. Then the next change that they've made here, dropped seat stays. Now, usually drop seat stays can add some compliance. They allow a bit more flex in the frame. Also supposed to be more aerodynamic. And you can see they've gone quite hard by making this front nose of that drop seat stay quite sharp, actually. And I think that looks quite pretty in my eyes, to be honest. Seat tube, well, this looks like a normal like SL7, SL8 seat tube. Pretty damn skinny, slight shaping to hug the wheel. They've obviously got that recipe down and works really well. One thing I do like from Specialized is that they put the model name on the back here. You can see Crux. That'll normally say tarmac on the tarmac as well. I just like that small detail personally. Down tube looks like a normal down tube, but one thing I would like to say is that they have added this plastic kind of strip on the bottom here, this nice hard piece. So any rocks and stuff throwing up onto there, well, you're going to maintain paint protection. I don't know how easy this would be to remove if this is starting to look a bit grubby and old, but I'm assuming, you know, maybe just a hairdryer might peel it off and you could probably buy a replacement for that, or I'd hope so at least. Otherwise you'd have to cut it out for yourself. The bottom bracket here, we've got BSA threaded bottom bracket. So for those of you who like a threaded, which actually personally I do as well. Yeah, you've got BSA bottom bracket, should be nice and easy to find, loads of them around, which if you want to go cheaper or if you want to upgrade to something fancy and ceramic, you can. This bike, of course, UDH compatible, as you would hope so, especially for a gravel bike nowadays. Just gives you so much more options, especially running with SRAM. I think SRAM make fantastic gravel group sets. As you can see, you've got the Rival Explore on here. Looks pretty beefy, looks meaty, looks chunky, and well, it looks robust enough to be a gravel bike group set. On the front, they seem to be stocking all of these bikes with a 40 tooth in the front, so great for climbing. I mean, you are a long way into the negative ratios there. Look at the size of the back ring. Personally, I'll probably change it out for something slightly bigger. Like I said, you can go up to 52 on this, which is awesome. So you can get that kind of normal size mid-compact chain ring on there if you want to, especially when you're running the big cogs at the back. I think that's generally fine. They have come stocked with this chainstay guard, and well, this is nice and beefy, nice and chunky. Any chain slap, that is going to protect it comfortably. Look at that. It's just nice for a bike to come with something like this as standard, particularly on a gravel bike, because, well, otherwise you're going to damage all of your paint here. Now, of course, I said I'll talk about tyre clearance, and the fantastic thing about this bike is that it comes with a 55mm of tyre clearance. That is massive. Usually bikes aren't limited by the space up here, they're limited by the space down there. Now, this is kind of partly the reason why they went 1x, 2x. With the front derailleur here, generally the tyre starts to hit it, so going 1x accounts for that. It's from the actual chainstay side, and it's the fact that they haven't had to do like a dropped kink or like a weird kink in the frame shape. It's even from right to left hand side. If you look at most bikes to try and get that tyre clearance, they've dropped and kinked the chainstay here just to try and fit that space in. But yeah, somehow Specialized have managed to get that tyre width without doing all of that, and aesthetically for the bike, I think it makes it look a lot prettier to me. But yeah, as you can see, this current tyre on here at the moment is a 45C tyre, so it's already pretty down wide, and you can see, well, you've got lots of clearance down in the bottom bracket there. And of course, the same story goes with the front. 55mm worth of tyre clearance, pretty awesome, just as gravel bikes should be nowadays. All of the bikes come stocked with these pathfinders, 45mm, but I'd imagine a lot of you will be getting ready to change these out straight away and go wider straight to that 55mm. Probably a good all-rounder if you're doing racing on fairly dry gravel, the 45mm I reckon. But again, I won't say too much more about the tyres because I know it's very individual, and people like to run what they like to run. Bike is stocked with the DT Swiss G500 wheel, so kind of like an alloy rim, only 26mm deep, probably more than fine enough. I mean, DT Swiss are a very reliable wheel brand, but it would be a very, very easy wheel upgrade, which would save a lot of weight and make the bike a lot more aerodynamic, which the higher models obviously come with some deeper wheels. But if you were looking at future upgrades, this would be a very easy one to do for this bike. Now this one is running the SRAM setup, but it does have the small little hole there, currently covered up with a little bung, if you want to run the Shimano Di2 setup as well. I would like to mention that there's no internal frame storage anywhere on this bike. A lot of the bikes are going for internal frame storage here because I guess there's more space in the down tube. Now, they've done this to keep the weight down. They reckon the weight gain's better than having the storage there. Personally, I would have liked to have seen internal storage. Here's my reasoning. This now means that you have to run a saddlebag, or sometimes you run the storage bottle underneath here, which generally gets pretty mucky and dirty. But to me, aerodynamically, being able to store all of your spares on the inside of the bike, that's just a really nice way to keep the bike looking super clean and maintaining the aerodynamics without adding like a saddlebag and stuff on there. Now, obviously this bike is designed for racing, so a lot of racers won't be carrying any spares and stuff like that, but most of us buying the bike will be normal people. So personally, I would have liked to have seen some internal storage with, I don't know how much the added weight penalty would have been, maybe 100 grams, I don't know. But for me, I would have liked to have seen it. But it is a bike designed for their racers and they get first pick. Now, paint jobs are obviously very personal. On this comp model, I actually think this is one of their nicer ones, the blue with this kind of silver. Almost looks like it's got a purpley tinge in real life. It might be able to pick that up on camera, but that could just be the indoor lighting here. On the website, it definitely looks silver on the front. Generally speaking, Specialized go fairly safe with their paint jobs and do some loud ones. You can go check the website out and see which ones you like the most, basically. But as a whole, they haven't gone boring. They've added in these kind of like faded stripes all the way around the frame as well, just to keep some visual interest on the eye there. So let's weigh this bike in as it is. No pedals, no front mount, no bottle cages, but pretty much everything as standard as you buy the bike. It does have butyl inner tubes in it at the moment. I would assume most people would run tubeless, which would be lighter. Okay, I've got 8.86 kilos there. Because it is a gravel bike and everything's quite chunky, when you pick it up, it doesn't really feel like 8.86 kilos. It just looks like a slightly chunky road bike to me. Well guys, here it is, the brand new Specialized Crux. Like I said, some of you might not like the direction this bike has gone, particularly with like the integrated handlebars and stuff like that. Personally, I thought the SL7 was such a beautiful bike. And this is just like a slightly chunkier gravel version of the SL7. So I think this is one of the prettiest gravel bikes around at the moment. That's just my personal opinion. Anyway guys, if you have any specific questions on this bike that you think that I have missed, feel free to stick them in the comments down below. I reply to pretty much most things. Or you can also ask me privately over here on Instagram. I reply to most things there as well. And you can follow my daily shenanigans. Finally, before you leave, thanks again to Pedal Heaven for letting me come around and filming this bike. It's so cool to see one in person, especially so early on. But I've been Jason. This has been Cycling Unboxed. I'll see you in another video.